So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. Today, welcome you back here at BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Tuesday, July 21st. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far. I know I am. Hopefully everybody had a good rest of their day yesterday. The Yankees tied against the Phillies. Yesterday. We'll talk about that coming up later on in the show. We got a lot of sports to get to today. We got second-year predictions for the quarterbacks as you know, training camp gets going. We're going to be doing some NFL projections and stuff like that tomorrow. More than likely, unless if some other breaking news and stuff comes out tomorrow, I'll be doing my MLB Power Rankings. Since tomorrow is the day before the first MLB game, I'm just gonna do it tomorrow because on Thursday I'm gonna have a pod about the Yankees and stuff, and I don't know if I really want to be really bothered doing a power ranking. So tomorrow I'll be doing a power rankings, all 30 teams. I will probably only be doing 2 topics tomorrow, either that and then some other topic, because 30-team power ranking is a lot. So I'll be doing those. Second-year predictions, obviously, today. No fans at the Jets and Giants and Rutgers games this season. The New Jersey governor announced yesterday that there will be no fans in the stands at the Jets or Giants and the Rutgers games. We'll focus more on we'll focus on all of them. But there are some big things about the Jets and the Giants that some teams may follow. And then we got the Yankees game / the MLB. Yankees had their final tune-up yesterday against the Phillies. They tied it. Some awkward moments in that game. An awkward 3-out home run by Aaron Judge. Very awkward. Let's not play the 10th inning. So there were some little awkward things, which I'm actually not surprised they didn't play the 10th inning. Because, you know, there's a new thing, and I don't think a lot of teams like it. I think a lot of teams would actually rather not go into extra innings. I don't think a lot of teams like this second base thing. I don't think they do. I think a lot of teams dislike it. That's why I don't think they played yesterday. Because, one, they wanted to save arms, and two, they were like, nah, let's not even do the second base thing. Like, I have an odd feeling you're going to see a lot of teams strive not to get into the... Sometimes you'll see teams, okay, like, you know, let's throw our best pitcher here, shut him down, and then let's, you know, go into extra innings. You know, you'll see teams that. You might see some teams now, they might actually try to really just like absolutely pound that pitcher. They might actually use more pinch hitters, like be like, okay, you have a good record against this guy. Like, I don't think the extra inning thing is gonna very good for them. I really don't. So that's just my quick tad bad on the Yankees game yesterday. We'll talk about that coming up later on in the show. But today we started all off with year 2 quarterbacks predictions / Daniel Jones. So year 2 QBs most likely to make a leap in 2020. So there's a story released. It was actually interesting. It's actually a pretty hot debate now kind of going around. A lot of people are, most people are talking about it now. You know, it's a pretty hot debate, you know, whether it's, you know, it's just about the whole second-year quarterback thing. Now, this does have to tie into it a little bit. The NFL yesterday came out and said that they more than likely won't be having a preseason. As a matter of fact, I think it's confirmed they won't have a preseason, which is very, very, very bad. Because, actually, no, it's just very bad. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that. Very good, I mean. It could be bad or good to a player. Many players that are trying to make a roster spot, the preseason is huge for them. That is their chance to show the coaches, the GMs, the owners, all the coaches, show the players that they can be a good teammate. Show, obviously, I'm just going to restart what I said there. They can show the players they could be a good teammate. They could show the coaches they're a good player. Show the GM they're a good player. It could show even other teams that they're a good player, because you also got to realize other teams are scouting these guys too. You know, because maybe they'd be like, oh, this guy's actually not that bad. Look at his stats. You know, that's why preseason can be good or bad for some players. I personally don't like preseason. It means nothing. Spring training baseball, on the other hand, like I said, spring training baseball is the sign of a lot of things, though, I got to admit. Like, preseason's, you know, usually the sign of, you know, it's almost done with summer, you know, things like that. It kind of stinks. Spring training, on the other hand, why I like spring training a little bit more is because Spring training, it's a sign of the summer. It's nice out. Usually the weather is nice. You have you obviously have some of these nice training facilities you can go to and watch the game. It's amazing. Spring training. Now, do I watch every spring training game? Sometimes I do. But it's hard because, they mean nothing. These games mean nothing. And the NFL has been talking about this for years, people. They've been talking about this for years. They have been saying, let's play 20 games instead of 16. Eliminate that 4 preseason. Play 20 weeks, 19 games. That has been a talk for a long time now. I believe that is the right decision. I really do. Although you might have to, you're going to have to adjust the schedule a little bit if you're going to do that, because then you have to have the proper offseason. But I believe you got to do that. I believe it. I really believe these players or this league will eventually switch to that. And I think they should. Preseason ratings are not very good. I mean, look at the stands. Look at the stands. There's nobody that shows up at the games in preseason. It means absolutely nothing. I'm not trying to be mean, but it's a bunch of third and fourth strings that probably won't make the team, or they'll be on the practice squad that is playing. The highest score you'll get is maybe 13-10, 10-7. It's a low-scoring game. I remember a game I was watching last year, the Jets-Eagles. I was watching the game. It was so boring. It was 7-6 was like the final score. Like, it was just so boring. Like, games get very boring. Like, that's the problem with preseason games. The only time preseason games are really fun to watch is if you have a brand new quarterback that comes into the league. He's a rookie, brand new, gets his first preseason start, and a lot of people want to see what he's all about. That is when you'll see a preseason maybe get a decent ratings. You'll see, now, you might think I'm getting off topic here. This actually ties back to what I'm about to say with the no preseason. But you might see a bad quarterback, or not a bad quarterback. You might see a rookie quarterback. Like when Sam Darnold made his debut, Jets versus Falcons, that preseason game a couple years ago. When he made his debut in that game, everybody was actually pumped about it. Because they're like, oh, we're getting a first look at Darnold. We're getting a first look at our new quarterback. A lot of people were really hyped about that. Now, a regular old quarterback, third string, guy that's probably either going to get cut or not make the team, sure, it's not that intriguing. Maybe he'll throw. And there's also so many subs. It's sometimes tough to follow the game. It's sometimes like, oh, who's in a quarterback? Well, last drive it was this guy, but this drive I have no clue. They also sub in a lot. You get lost sometimes. You're like, oh, well, especially if you're trying to keep the stats and stuff, you're like, oh, well, this guy scored now. Wait, no, this guy's in his place. Oh, this guy got substituted out. Wait, this guy is in. He's back in, but he's out again. Like, it gets confusing. There's so many substitutions. That's why I feel like if you have to have a preseason, you got to make it more games. Because they get so many different players in. Like, they'll let the quarterback play one drive. Like, that's just not necessary. Like, that's a waste of suiting up to play one drive for a game that doesn't even matter. That's why you always hold your fantasy football draft, people, after the preseason. After the preseason. Because if somebody focuses on the preseason, sure, you get, I sometimes watch I'll watch the preseason. I'll watch the Jets. And same thing with spring training. I'll watch all the games. But, I'll watch it. It's just, it's not intriguing. It's not like, oh, we got a preseason game today. Invite everybody over. We're having appetizers preseason game today. Like, so. But how, I know you think I might have just gotten off topic, and I actually haven't. How this correlates into the year 2 quarterback's leap. There will be probably no preseason. I'm pretty sure there will be no preseason. So, week 1 is going to be the first week these guys are taking game action. Just think about that for 1 second. Week 1 will be the first week these guys are seeing real action. They've been at their houses. They've been kind of quarantined for this whole time, for this whole period of 5-6 months. They've barely played with each other. Now they're going back to training camp. So, what does this mean, people? Week 1, you might see an ugly week 1. You might see a bad team upset a good team. You might see one of these quarterbacks I'm talking about today expect to do great. Oh, he's going to have a great game. He's going to have a great season. And start off his season struggling. You might see that. You might see that. My phone here is just keep on going higher here. The light, I try to not make it too light because then it hurts my eyes, but keeps on going back and forth. But you might see that. You might. You might see a good quarterback. You might see a Pat Mahomes. You might see a Lamar Jackson. You might see a Russell Wilson. Out of all these quarterbacks on the list, you might see a Kyler Murray. You might see a Drew Lock. You might see a Daniel Jones. You might see a Gardner Minshew. You might see, like we saw last season, Dwayne Haskins struggle week 1 because there is no preseason. At least preseason gives the guy time to at least get one snap of 1-2 drives of just, getting the feel for it. Now, Tom Brady never played preseason, but that's also Tom Brady, people. You got to realize who you're talking about. A lot of people go back to the whole Tom Brady route. Well, you're also talking about one of the greatest football players to go down of all time. You're also talking about that. Maybe Michael Jordan didn't play in all of, it's almost like saying, the Summer League is, in the NBA Summer League, that's another thing. You don't see any players playing the Summer League usually, like any of them. You'll see, like, the big name players you won't see. You'll see a bunch of rookies. It's rookies. That's what's different about the Summer League. It's like, that's what's different about spring training, and the expedition in hockey. Hockey has like 5 expedition games where you could put in your starters and stuff. But you might not see, since there probably will be no spring training or no preseason. You might see a good quarterback, a good team lose to a bad team. Maybe, just maybe, you'll see the Texans upset the Chiefs. Now the Texans aren't a bad team, but I'm sure most people will expect the Chiefs to win that game. You'll get probably all the Chiefs fans, mainly most of the sports people. I know I have the Chiefs winning that game. Then you have Texans fans and some other sports people, but I think most people are going to predict the Chiefs. So with that being said, is maybe the Chiefs don't have a preseason, they haven't played against each other, blah, 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 blah. You also might see some of the teams with the new players, a lot of the new players. You might see some of the teams that really utilize free agency this year struggle. Because you got to realize, you might see it. You just might see it. And because you got to realize, a lot of these players have not played with each other yet. Sam Darnold, Denzel Mims, that hookup, that connection might not be a great thing week 1. That might take 2-3 weeks to really get on the same page. That same thing with Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, a quarterback that's on this list, for example. That might take 2 to 3 weeks to really get into it. It's really going to take a little bit of time. Same thing with Drew Lock and Jerry Jeudy, his brand new receiver, and KJ Hamler. Those guys, it might take a little bit for him to really connect with them. Because everybody has their different play. Maybe Lock throws this kind of ball, it's the blah, blah, blah. You got to connect. It's all about timing, people. It's all about timing. Same thing with all these offensive linemen. They gotta really practice working together. You might not seem like it, but the offensive line, there's a lot of communication on there. Whether that's when the QB calls out a different play or audibles or something, or calls out something different, and the offensive lineman have to communicate, I'm going here, I'm going here, I'm going here. You might see some errors early because maybe they don't have their exact assignments. You might see it, people. You might. And that's what might actually affect these year 2 quarterback leaps. This virus is affecting everything. It's infecting regular old everyday things. It's infecting. It's affecting, and it is infecting, I guess. But it's affecting everyday things. It's affecting sports. Sports has gotten drilled by it. We haven't seen a live sporting event before baseball, like a real live, like major sport. I've been watching bull riding, cornhole, and but that stuff's different. But, we haven't seen a really live sporting event, like a big one, a live big sporting event in over many months, 4 or 5 months from now. 4 or 5 months. We haven't seen a hockey game. We haven't seen an NBA game. We've seen MLB before this weekend. We have not seen a live sporting event in over 5-6 months. We haven't seen the NBA. We just saw the MLB. We haven't seen the NHL, and the NFL is, who knows? There's multiple players now. Russell Wilson even came out and expressed his concern about this whole situation. But obviously, so with that whole thing is the year 2 quarterbacks most likely to take a leap. This is all based off of on what I can imagine as a most normal season. This is what, now, like I said, that same thing with the MLB shortened season. You might see a bad team like the Tigers or the Orioles go on and go make a run. Or a Marlins, or a Mets, or any team, or a Padres, or any team like that. You might see them go on and make a run. So you might see, out of these year 2 quarterbacks most likely to take a leap, the quarterback I'm just about to name, you might see him out of the blue, because everybody had their different workout sessions and things. Some quarterback, you might see some players show up at training camp. You could tell they haven't worked out much during this whole virus shutdown. Then you might see as well some players come back and they look absolutely jacked and really like, I'm ready to play. That might make the difference. So out of these 5 quarterbacks, I'm assuming, I would hope, all of them are obviously working out and staying in shape. But you might see one of them show up at camp and they might be gaining weight. They might be slow. And all of a sudden, is that really our franchise quarterback that did not take time, did not do anything over quarantine? Really? So here we go, QB projections. Dwayne Haskins, 5th. I don't want to say this because you could take a leap. You could take a small leap. Because so this is a thing now. So CBS announced theirs as well, and what happens is the last one won't happen. The 4th in my list would be unlikely. Then it was not out of the question. Then it was don't be shocked. Then it was most likely. I don't want to say it won't happen. I don't think that's the proper word because to be honest, he could take a leap. It might not be as big as everyone else's. Because he did not have a great season last year, Dwayne Haskins. You ought to remember that. He had a very horrible season. Out of all these quarterbacks, he probably had the worst season out of all of them. He did have the worst season out of all of them. So, for him just to have a little bit better of a season would not take much, and that would be considered a leap. So, I don't want to say a leap, it won't happen for him, because to be honest, it doesn't. He could still have a horrible year, and technically, look at the numbers, he could take a leap. So, I don't want to say he isn't going to take. I don't want to say it won't happen because he could take a leap. Out of all these guys, he's probably most likely to take a little leap because he had the worst stats. So I don't want to say, he's not going to take a leap if he had the worst stats. He doesn't take a leap, then the Redskins really got to be concerned because you should take a leap after a season like that. So anyway, so QB projections, here we go. So Dwayne Haskins, I had 5th. And what I saw last year out of this guy was nothing. I saw a guy last year win his first game, and he's on the sidelines taking selfies with fans. Well, there will be no selfies this year. Will he be taking a selfie if they put cardboard cutouts in the stadium? Right? And this is the guy that I saw that was very irresponsible after that first win. And I did not like that. Him taking selfies with fans. Now, I know I laughed about it and stuff, but that's not what you want to see in your franchise quarterback. Him taking selfies with fans. You got to be with your team. And that's one thing I did not like about Baker Mayfield in Oklahoma. It almost seemed like every single time he scored a touchdown, he would just go completely opposite way with his team. I like players that are with the team. Him on the other hand, he was taking selfies with fans. Enjoy with your team. Don't go out and do it your own. And Dwayne Haskins also, you look at the position he's in right now. The Redskins right now are in a it's bad. It's bad. The Redskins are, it is almost like they should just quit their franchise and just no. This is the lowest moment. Out of my whole life seeing the Redskins, this is the lowest moment they've ever been at. This has been the lowest moment. And the Redskins 2 years ago, before that Alex Smith leg injury, it was almost like they were at an all-time high. It was almost like Alex Smith, they had him in the playoff. They literally had him. I think they were leading in the NFC East. And Alex Smith went down, obviously, with that horrible leg injury that he's still recovering from. He obviously went down, got injured, and then all of a sudden, what happened to the Redskins? The Redskins absolutely just fell off the face of the earth, and you never heard of them again. So, obviously, Dwayne Haskins is in a horrible position. Not many receivers, doesn't have a great offense line, doesn't have a great offense. Head coach, he's got to learn under a new head coach already. The position he was put in last year, that's another reason, people. Same thing, Dwayne Haskins reminded me a lot of a Sam Darnold. They were put into horrible positions. Dwayne Haskins, horrible position. Sam Darnold, horrible position. Sam Darnold was put into a broken Jets team. Dwayne Haskins was put into a broken Redskins team. He's already had Jay Gruden. Now he's having an interim, and now he's got a new head coach, so he's got to learn on the 3 different systems. It's like that's a problem. Like, that's where I always try to find some way to really back these guys up, because everybody has a bad year, and sometimes guys just have a bad year and you don't know how. But Dwayne Haskins, to be honest, I mean, look what he was placed into. And a horrible team. You can make the argument they're one of the worst teams in the NFL. In a horrible in a horrible organization. A bad head coach. Then a new interim head coach. Now he's got actually a pretty good head coach. Like, geez, this guy's been through so much. So that's why you got to give him a little bit of rest, I would say. And I know a lot of people, and I've said it too. And this was one of my biggest blows in sports. I predicted him to be probably the Rookie of the Year frontrunner. Because what I saw in college was one of the best quarterbacks I've seen in a long time. What I saw in college, I really liked. Obviously, that did not translate to the NFL. So Dwayne Haskins, that's 5th. Next up, Gardner Minshew. Minshew mania lasted for 3 weeks, people. Gardner Minshew, I have a weird feeling that it might turn into a Fitzmagic. Or Fitzpatrick. Or a Fitztragic. Something like that. It might turn into that. It might start to really turn into that. It might. Because Gardner Minshew last year was good for the first 3 weeks of the season. First 3-4 weeks of the season. Right? He was good. Putting up numbers. Jacksonville looked like a playoff team. Oh my gosh. Look at Jacksonville. They're just running away with this thing. They go to London. They play. Come back. I think they're still in London right now. I think the Jaguars left themselves in London, I'm pretty sure. Because they came back to the United States, and they was not the same Jacksonville we saw. It actually started in that London game. So maybe they got lost at the airport. Who knows? Maybe they got lost at the airport. Because obviously they flew out of the United States, got over to London, and then they did not show up at the London game whatsoever. That was horrible. I remember it was Leonard Fournette. I think rushed for 3 yards that game or 3 points in fantasy. I remember talking about it while I was watching the game on my Sunday podcast. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, put in Fournette, everybody. And I looked at his numbers. I was like, wait, cut that. Don't put in Fournette. But yeah, they must have they must still be at the airport or something. Because then they went to London. They were non-existent. Then they came back to the States or to the United States, and they were they were in the question for the worst team in the league. And now this year, Gardner Minshew is on one of the worst teams in the league. A lot of people have them going 2-14, 3-13. So, what Gardner Minshew are you going to get? That's the big problem. Because Gardner Minshew last year, you got the great Gardner Minshew through 3 weeks, and you got the horrible one. So, what one are you going to get this year? I have an odd feeling you're not going to get the great one because he does not have good assets around him. So next up, we got Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, I think you're going to see a little bit of a leap, I think. I think you're going to see a little bit of a leap. I think you will. Daniel Jones, here's the problem with Daniel Jones. Another spot. A lot of these quarterbacks have been put into a very tough situation. Except Drew Lock and Kyler Murray, who are my next two. Okay, I'm not going to tell. I didn't tell you what order they were in, but I just said them randomly. Okay, Daniel Jones was also put into a tough situation. You have to look at both sides of that. Same thing with Gardner Minshew. He was also put into a tough situation. Gardner Minshew, horrible front office. I mean, Doug Marrone, what? Dwayne Haskins, he had horrible coach in Jay Gruden. Then he had an interim. Now he's another head coach. Now they're going through a name change. Now they have all these harassment allegations, 15 of them. Now, this franchise is at an all-time low. Now you might actually have to, literally, the league might kick Dan Snyder out of it. The position he is in, I would not be surprised if he just said, Coach, I'm requesting a trade. I can't take this place anymore. I can't. This is just horrible. Daniel Jones, on the other hand, same way too. Last season, his best running back, the best running back probably going into last year in the NFL. Now I think it's Christian McCaffrey after the year he had. The second best running back in the league got injured. He had no offensive line. Defense was horrible. Horrible head coach. Horrible coaching staff to begin with. Receivers, okay. Darius Slayton had a good year. Their receiver that everybody was hyping up, Golden Tate, would miss 4 games because of the suspension. I mean, he was put into a horrible position as well. So he didn't have a great year last year. He didn't have a great year. I mean, because also you got to realize he was put into a tough situation. He was put into a tough situation. So Daniel Jones, I would say, not out of the leap because they got a new offensive lineman. They already have that that guy named Saquon Barkley at running back. They already got, Darius Slayton, Golden Tate. Golden Tate, I don't know, he's older now. I don't know. He's got Evan Ingram. He's literally got mainly all receivers because Evan Ingram technically is a receiver. He's a receiver that's at the tight end. He's a receiving tight end. A good player, actually, a pretty good player, got to admit. But Daniel Jones now, this is his season to really prove. Last season he didn't have a great year. This season I think is a big year because he's got Jason Garrett, Joe Judge, brand new offensive lineman, couple new offensive linemen as well. They've built a little bit on the defense. I still believe the defense is the weakness. of that team. They've had a couple things go wrong in the offseason. You had the Aljack Rosehaw situation. You had the DeAndre Baker situation. You've had a couple things go wrong. So, but other than that, so far, this has been pretty solid. I think Daniel Jones, you might see a little bit of a leap, only because of the fact that, he was put into a very bad situation. So next up, this one's tough. Kyler Murray I have next up. And then I have Drew Lock. I'm going to explain both of them now. The reason I didn't put Kyler Murray at the most likely, because I think he'll take a leap, but not as big as some of these other people. Because you got to realize, people, Kyler Murray had an unbelievable year last year. For him to take another big leap could only be a little bit better than last year, which is perfectly fine. I think he had a very good year. Drew Lock, on the other hand, for him to take even a little bit of a leap would be a huge leap from last year. Because he didn't play that much last year. So that's why I'm putting Drew Lock in front. It's not that I think Kyler Murray is, like I said, I think Drew Lock is a very good quarterback. I'm very high on Drew Lock. Look at his people around him. Look at who's around him. Good offensive line. Okay, let's just start off there. Good offensive line. Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, Noah Fant, Cortland Sutton, Melvin Gordon, Phillip Lindsay. Those are the players around him. Those are the skill positions around him. Defense, it's Von Miller, Bradley Chubb. I mean, come on, people. Like, this Broncos team, look at the roster. They have a roster to win a division. Now, the problem is they're in the AFC West, which is the division with the Chiefs. But other than that, they can definitely take over that division and easily come in second. Chiefs, I think, have that division. Chiefs have the division down. But the Broncos, they could easily come in second. I, at the beginning of the year, had the Jets beating the Broncos in that Thursday night game. Because what I saw, that was also, I'm pretty sure that was before the draft. They released the schedule, and then it was the draft. So you also got to realize they didn't have KJ Hamler or Jerry Jeudy. There was actually some rumors that they might actually, they were, it's almost like this team is just, you look at this team could be scary, is what I'm just trying to get out of this. This team could definitely be scary. And I think, to be honest, this team adds one or two more, just a decent defender. Don't want to be a team playing against them. Sadly, that's the Jets, which we'll get up to in another next segment. Big news for the New York Jets. But this was my final thing. Dwayne Haskins, Gardner Minshew, Daniel Jones, Kyler Murray, Drew Lock. So, like I said, it really is all up in the air. There's a lot of quarterbacks on this list. Gardner Minshew, Dwayne Haskins, Daniel Jones were put into horrible positions. Kyler Murray, Drew Lock were put into good positions. Kyler Murray, bad team in Arizona, but at least they have the head coach down. Receiving isn't great, but I'm talking about the coaching-wise. Daniel Jones, horrible coach, horrible front office, all that bad stuff. Gardner Minshew, horrible coach, horrible front office. Dwayne Haskins, horrible franchise. So, Dwayne Haskins, Gardner Minshew, Daniel Jones, Kyler Murray, Drew Lock. Coming up next, no fans of Jets and Giants games. So this was a very interesting thing. This is actually breaking news. So yesterday, it came out that there will be no fans at Jets or Giants games this season. No fans at Jets or Giants games this season. So I have an app called Bleacher Report. A great app. Awesome app. Amazing. Probably one of my favorite apps. Probably is one of my favorite sporting apps. Very organized. You can comment on stuff, speak your opinion, stuff like that. It's an awesome app. And I love debating about sports. I say it all the time on this podcast. I love debating about sports. So, it reported yesterday on the app, and they have the comment section. It was so funny, because there was this one guy that commented, oh, the Jets have that anyway. They have no fans there. I was like, yeah, that's true. But the Rockers too have no fans, but they have no fans show up anyway either. So, I'll tell you what. Home field advantage is not happening in the NFL. And I'm telling you this. I said at the beginning of the year, and I will give myself credit for this. I said at the beginning of the year, the Jets versus that Chiefs game, Jets-Seahawks game, if there is no fans in attendance, I'm not saying the Jets will win. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it might be a closer game than a lot of you think. Because if there's no fans in the Chiefs or because I have an odd feeling, this happens a lot. It happened the same thing with the leagues. It's almost happening in college football right now. Once one team or one division makes a decision, conference only, then a lot of other teams' divisions follow behind that. Same thing with the Jets. Now that Jets and Giants won't allow fans in the stadium, a lot of other teams I feel like will follow behind that, especially Miami Dolphins. I really believe with the spiking cases in Florida, I really believe you might not see Miami Dolphins have fans in the stands there either. I believe out of all the teams, they would probably be the next up. And then, you got all these other teams. Then you got the New England Patriots. Like I said, I know about the virus and everything like that. But, I'm more a sports news guy. I don't really watch the regular news. So I don't know how other states are doing. Other than Florida, I know is a rise because everybody's talking about it. It's around the sports world, too, because everybody's wondering if the Dolphins feel it's safe enough to practice and play in Florida now because of the spike. Because, obviously, they're in Miami. A lot of people are wondering that. A lot of people were questioning now with the NBA bubble as well if it would be safe enough to have those players. But, the NBA actually had some very positive things yesterday come out. They had no positive cases entering the bubble, which should what happened. Which should be what's happening. If there's nobody leaving the bubble, nobody should get it. But since there's players leaving the bubble, some players get it, blah, blah, blah. But technically, if you're inside of that bubble and nobody's leaving there and you're wearing a mask and everything, you should not get it. Nobody should get it. But since some players broke the bubble, left in and stuff like that, one guy getting a food delivery, like really, it affects your team too. You got to go get a food delivery. Oh, great. I'm going to go get a food delivery. So now I'm going to have to be in quarantine for 8 days, then get test negative twice. So, But yeah, so obviously there's been a lot of rumors about not playing in Florida and Miami because of the spike in Florida. There's spikes, I think, even in Texas. I don't know. But that's really actually, the virus has been a very big topic in sports as well. Because it's affected sports so much. I mean, the virus is the reason sports has not been playing for the past 5-6 months. It's been the reason of that. It's not been because of, it stinks because it's still out there. It stinks that way. But obviously, the Jets, Giants will not allow fans at MetLife Stadium during home games. Now, home field advantage for any sport won't be a thing. Okay, first off, in the NBA bubble, you're not home anyway. You're at a neutral site, so you're not going to be home anyway. Even if they allowed fans or not, there would be no home field advantage because you're at a neutral site. So there's no home field advantage in the NFL or in the NBA. No home field advantage for the Jets and Giants because, okay, maybe they'll pump in artificial crowd noise on third down. Oh, that's really going to affect the team. It's really going to affect them. No. As a matter of fact, I really believe the Jets and the Giants. You might actually see a little struggle at home this year now because there will be no fans. There's going to be no fans. What's there to pep you on? And another thing is, this is going to be interesting now with no fans. It's going to be absolutely quiet. Like I said, I think they'll pump in fake crowd noise. I think the stations, whether that's Fox, FS1, whether it's NFL Network, whether it's ESPN, whether it's CBS, or like I said, Fox, whatever it is, you'll see them pump in artificial crowd noise. You have to. You cannot play a silent football game. Baseball, different story, because baseball's not that loud anyway. You'll get people pumped up near the 8th, 9th inning. It's not that loud anyway. It really is. When they hit a home run, it's loud. But other than that, and that's what they do in the stadium. When a player hits a home run or does something good, they put on that artificial crowd noise that actually goes through the stadium. As for the announcers and stuff like that, you will be able to hear crowd noise. I think that's what you got to do, because as a fan, it's hard to listen to a quiet football game, because it's just hard. It's just hard to listen to a quiet football game. It just is. It is just hard. Like you're gonna hear the quarterbacks be like, "Ready, set, hike." Especially in college football when they slap their hands or clap their hands. NFL they don't do that, but you're gonna hear all the call outs. You're gonna hear everything. It might actually be easier now to, you might actually see some big defensive things, because when they're calling out the plays, defense can remember that, be like, "Oh, he did this." Sometimes if you're calling out the play, you're not gonna be in the huddle. What if you're talking? It's gonna be so weird playing silently. I don't think you can play silently. The players will, but I think you have to pump in official crowd noise. Now, like I said, it seems the way how things are going, how this virus has affected sports, it seems more teams will be doing this. It seems more states, more governors will be saying no fans at this football team. Whatever team that is, it seems that will be. Obviously, Jets and Giants will be the first state. New Jersey will be the first state to say no fans allowed at our pro football team stadium. That is MetLife Stadium. So there will be no fans. I said it before. I've been saying it so many times on this pod. It is very hard to get fans into a stadium, I feel like. Especially in the NFL, you got the tailgating, you have all that congregating outside. When I go to Jets games before, and you see the tailgating and stuff, everybody's just next to each other. Somebody gets a parking spot, then somebody else. You're all near each other. That's just, also, if it means to wear a mask at a game, then it means to wear a mask at a game. If I were to go to a game with a mask, I would wear a mask. But, like I said, it also really depends. Because, it's just everybody going. If you go 10,000 people here, how are you going to, it just seems so hard to socially distance 10,000 people. 10,000 people. We got 10,000 people to go to the game. How? Now that the Jets and Giants aren't, that's obviously, even though they're considered New York Jets, New York Giants, the governor of New Jersey has to make that decision. Now, New York, the governor of New York has to make the decision whether the Bills will play. Whether the Bills will play with fans or not. If the Bills play without fans, that might be tough. Because now, look, if the Bills play without fans, that Bills Mafia thing? That Bills Mafia thing? That whole Bills Mafia smashing tables, they would not be able to play without fans. The Bills have to have fans. I'm sorry. The Bills do. The Bills have to have fans. Or else there will be fans still showing up at the game. I'll tell you what, man. This whole virus thing is really crazy. With sports, too, it's just so annoying. It's just, like I said, I believe the NFL is going to play. I'm hopeful. It's the same thing with the MLB. I got really down. I got really be like, ugh. It's are we even going to see sports? Are we even going to see sports? And, you really got to the point where you were really just, ugh. I remember writing on my pod note sheet here. This is why I know. This is what I write down. This. If you never knew, this is the sheet. I write down what I'm going to talk about. And what I was going to talk about is MLB plan. I remember writing down MLB plan 5 times 1 week. Every day I talked about the MLB plan. And it was just oh my gosh, because every day the plan would get rejected. And that's why it feels in the way happening to the NFL. It's not so much the money and the stuff. It's the players, because they want to stay safe. They feel like they're not safe. Safety of the players is at the top priority. And I think not allowing fans, although it stinks, I would rather have fans in attendance. I just think it just brings a better vibe. You can go to a game. I love going to sporting events. If you don't know that about me, I am the biggest fan of going to sporting events. I would rather go to a sporting event than watching on TV. Now, I watch it on TV most of the time. But whenever I get a chance to go to a sporting event, I'm jumping right on it. or whenever I can get tickets or something, I'm jumping right on that. I love going to sporting events. So Jets and Giants, not allowed in MetLife, stinks, but at least, you have television. I've always complained about technology. There's things of technology that are annoying, and there's things of technology that are upside. If this happened back when technology wasn't a thing, and you had to go to a football game in order to watch it, or you could tune in your radio and listen to it, but that would be tough. But to be honest, I think without fans is the safest thing to do. I think it protects us as people, and it also protects the players. Especially, you might see actually some more teams have to open domes. You might see that. You might see more teams open domes if their dome is openable. I know some domes. I actually think all domes are open because I know the Indianapolis Colts can be open. I'm pretty sure the Texans can be open. The Mercedes-Benz Superdome I know can be open. Dallas Cowboys I know can be open. Or Mercedes-Benz Stadium can be open. Mercedes-Benz Superdome can't be open. See, that's the problem, people. You might see them go no fans. Because Dome Stadium, it's harder to get the virus. I mean, the stats have shown it's harder to get the virus when you're outside. Now, it's still possible. It's still very likely. But it's harder to get it. It's when you're inside in your enclosed area and the air is just all kind of floating around. That's when it's harder. That's when it's easier to get. It's harder to get when you're outside. So that's why you might actually see the New Orleans Saints. They're inside because so all that air is just going to be like, although it's big and the air will move around, but that's when you're in an enclosed area. That's why you have to wear a mask because all the air is just there. Like all the particles and stuff are just in the air there. That's why you see a lot of places. That's why you see a ton of places. A lot of them you'll see they put in like a new air conditioning or a new unit and all the air just gets flushed out and stuff and it's fresh air every time. So it's not, everybody's trying to do their best they can to keep people safe, which is good. But this is I think the first step, and like I said, if it means there's gonna be no fans at a game at MetLife Stadium, then that means it's either. I've always said this on the podcast. I've been saying this for a while now. I would love to have fans in attendance, but if it means the football season or any season of any sport would only be able to go on without fans, if they gave me two options, would you rather have fans in attendance and have the season not go on until, maybe a couple months from now, pause it? Or would you rather have the season start on time with no fans? I would pick start on time with no fans. I would love to have fans, even when you're watching on TV, it brings a different vibe and stuff. But obviously, it is what it is. I would rather have sports on and no fans than no sports on and wait until you can get fans in the stadium. Now, they did say they're trying to get MetLife Stadium open as quick as they can, but like I said, I'm not sure how that's going to work. So the New York Jets and the New York Giants will play home games without fans in attendance during the 2020 NFL season. Both teams announced on Monday their joint decision came after New Jersey Governor Murphy told both teams that the state's limit of 500 people at outdoor gatherings includes professional sporting events. That's another thing. 500 people. You're only gonna get 500 people into that. That's tough. 500 people, okay, into a 82,000 seat stadium. It's just going to be way too many people. It's just going to be way too many. Meaning like trying to get it, like meaning like I actually shouldn't say way too many people. Only 500 people is what I'm trying to say. Tickets would be selling out left and right. It would be so hard to get a ticket. It's not even worth it. For 500 people to go to the game out of an 82,000 seat stadium, that's just not even worth it. You could really socially distance. Then you could probably do like 24 seats in between each other. But what I'm trying to say is with 500 people, so many people trying to buy tickets, you would have so many people be left out and not able to go to a game. They're joint. So MetLife Stadium, located in East Rutherford, New Jersey, is the home of both teams. As it stands right now, we will see empty stands for each team's 8 regular season home games. Governor Murphy cited the ongoing concern for the general public's health after the reason to shut fans down from live games. While we look forward to the day we can return to games as normal and cheer from the stands, continued concerns for the health and safety of fans, team members, and staff dictate that our executive order limiting outdoor gatherings does apply to sporting events, including training camp, he said, according to the NJ Advanced Media. Yeah, you might not see fans at training camp, too. That's the first thing that popped in my head yesterday, actually. When I heard about this, I was like, training camp, it looks like it's in doubt now. Meaning not that the players won't have training camp, meaning that it looks like fans, because I went to training camp last year. It's awesome experience. Having people go to training camp looks in doubt now as well. Murphy did note that fans may be allowed back in the stadium when it is safe to do so. So, in a way, you could still see fans week 1, I guess. Because he did say this. And actually, I did bring this up earlier on my podcast. They're going to get fans back in the stadium whenever they can. So, technically, if the virus cases keep going down and there's no upticks and they just keep going down, technically you can get fans back soon. I've said this about the Yankees, too. Yankees owner Hal Steinbrenner said he would love to see fans in attendance this season to 20 to 30% filled. Okay? You might see that in the playoffs, if anything. You might see that in the playoffs when it is safe to do so. You might see them try to get Jets fans and Giants fans if one of the teams make the playoffs, which I think is highly likely. So you might see that. And you might see more teams try to thrive to get fans in attendance for the playoffs because it's the playoffs. It's a big deal. Instead of just a regular season game. We will continue to closely monitor the public health reality and work with health experts to determine how to move forward. And we will continue to work closely with the teams as conditions change. He said, like all fans across New Jersey, I look forward to watching our teams play from house and plan to be there in person to support the teams when it is safe to do so. Training camp is set to begin this week, and those sessions will also be close to the public. Exactly. So right now, the NFL is pushing for the regular season to start on time, potentially without preseason games. Like I said earlier, I noted that earlier in our first topic. However, players are speaking against some changes the league wants to make and are becoming frustrated with the lack of health and safety plan. The owners had a meeting yesterday, actually. As a matter of fact, the owners had a meeting yesterday about the whole situation, because it really feels like, and a lot of players are saying this, and some people are like, oh, they're just being annoying and stuff. A lot of players are saying that they really are concerned. There's people that are concerned. Like, there is everybody has a different feeling about this whole situation, I would say. So here's a quick joint statement I wanted to read from the Giants and the Jets. It's just highlighting, the whole situation. When it comes up, okay, there we go. Today, Governor Murphy announced that due to the ongoing public health crisis in his executive order limiting outdoor public gatherings will apply to the events at MetLife Stadium until further notice. This decision was reached after careful consideration of the current state of the COVID-19 crisis, in discussions with the Jets and the Giants, and consideration of the health and safety of our fans, players, and staff, which will continue to be the primary focus for our teams. We support Governor Murphy's decision to the interest of the public health and safety, and until circumstances change, both Jets and the Giants will play our home games with the benefit of fans. Without the benefit, I was going to say with the benefit. I was like, what? There's no fans in the stadium. Without the benefit of fans in attendance. Although we would prefer to have fans at MetLife Stadium for our games, we will continue to work with Governor Murphy's office and will provide updates if necessary. Out of the abundance of caution, each team's 2020 training camps and practices will not be open to the public. We urge our fans to continue to take necessary precautions recommended by health officials to stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you at MetLife Stadium as soon as possible. Thank you again for your continued patience and understanding during these unprecedented times, and we will continue to provide additional information as it becomes available. So that was a joint statement from the Jets and the Giants. Like I said, fans, it stinks, but I would rather see a football game with no fans than no football game and wait till there is fans allowed. So, it is what it is, I guess. Pumping, and like I said, I was getting a haircut the one time, and that's how I actually heard it. And it was a soccer game, it was on the TV, and they pumped in fake crowd noise, and I was like, wow. It literally, if I walked in there blindfolded and I heard that, I would think it was a repeat. It was unreal. It was unreal. And then you heard it and you're like, oh, is this a repeat? And you watch it and you realize it's so weird because you hear all the noise and you look at the TV and there's nobody in the attendance and you're like, wait, what? Wait, what? Huh? It's funny. Definitely interesting. But the Yankees finished their game yesterday. They played against the Phillies. Yankees went 2-0-1 during this whole spring training thing, or the restart. Technically, overall, they went 13-8-1, but technically, for the past 3 days, they went 2-0-1. Tied yesterday against the Phillies 2-2. The Yankees played well. The Yankees played well. They definitely had their moments. Hopefully the Yankees look good. The Yankees definitely did. They did not play that extra inning thing. Like I said, I think that whole second base thing is just stupid. I do. MLB, like I said, I'm pumped the season's back. I really am. MLB is trying to do a lot. Like really trying to do a lot to speed up the game. The game is meant to be played how it is meant to be played. Meaning, MLB is the only sport with no clock. MLB is the only sport out there with no clock. NFL has a play clock and a regular old just clock in general, 15-minute, 12 minutes for the NBA and a shot clock. And the NHL has a regular old 20-minute period clock. So every sport has a clock. Baseball is the only sport that has a clock. It is meant to be played without a clock, without any sort of timer. But they're trying to change that because of the ratings, because people are not intrigued. But I'm intrigued. That's all that matters. I'm intrigued. I could sit there for 3 hours and watch the Yankees game. I don't have a problem with it. I'm one of the very minimal. You do not see many people like me anymore. You see a lot of people these days, especially people that are just, especially a lot of the younger people. You see a lot of them. They will really like football. They'll all lean towards football. A lot of people these days lean towards football. You very rarely see people like me where I follow 4 sports. I follow hockey, baseball, basketball, and football. I follow all 4 of those sports. As for some people, you see a lot of people these days following football, basketball, or just football, or just basketball. You very rarely see people. You very rarely even see, or you see people just. You actually see a lot more people like just baseball, because this is how their type of sport is. It's just how it is. But to be honest, like I said, Yankees look good. The Yankees look good, to say the least. They really did. They played very well for them, kind of just really just getting back into the groove of things. DJ LeMahieu went 0 for 3. Tyler Lade went 0 for 1. Judge had an awkward home run. So, Judge comes up. 3 outs, right? The pitcher wanted to get a couple more pitches in. Judge tanks a home run. Absolutely bombs it. So, Judge is running around second base, and the pitcher walks off the mound, and he starts, coming in. And they're like, no, run the bases. And he's like, what? So he started running the bases again. It was so weird. But that's how it is with Expedition Baseball, right? It means nothing. There's some nooks and crannies that you can do, different things that you can do. Clint Frazier worked a walk. Gleyber Torres had 3. He went 1 for 3. Strada went 0 for 1. Stanton went 0 for 4. Struggles a little bit. Hicks had 2 walks. 1 at bat. Hicks had 2 walks. Mike Tauchman had 1 hit. Tauchman's been looking good. He's been looking very good. Ford had a home run as well. A boom shot right into center field. Ford had a nice hit as well. I really like Ford. Pinch hitting again. Gary Sanchez went 0 for 2. Andujar had a walk. Voit had a hit. Eric Kratz had a hit. Brett Gardner had a walk. Granite had nothing. Urshela had 1 walk, and then the rest of that is good. This is how the pitchers went down for the Yankees. Davy Garcia pitched 1 and... Whoops. That was a sneeze that I was trying to hold in, but I didn't hold in, so that's why it sounded weird. Davy Garcia went 1 2/3 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned, 2 walks, and 1 strikeout. David Hale went 2 2/3 innings, 2 hits, 3 walks, 1 strikeout. Nelson went 1 2/3 innings pitched, 3 strikeouts. Zach Brand went 1 inning, 1 hit. Krisky went 1 inning, 2 strikeouts. Zitch went 1 inning, 1 strikeout. So, overall, pretty good game by the Yankees. We did tie, but like I said, it's just preseason. Preseason means absolutely nothing. We could win 15-0. And it doesn't matter. Preseason means Expedition absolutely means absolutely nothing. You'll see within these next couple of days, whether it's tomorrow or today, you'll see who's going to be starting lineup, practice, or the taxi squad and stuff like that. So you'll see a lot of that coming up. So that's what I got for the podcast today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. Oh, by the way, quick announcement. I have a new app, so it's called Speaker Studio, and it's where you can live stream, do podcasts, and stuff like that. Starting opening day, I might be doing an opening day, I'm not 100%. I think I'm going to do weekend games only, Saturday and Sunday. I will be doing the Yankees games live. I'm still thinking about it a little bit. I'm still trying to work out everything, but I probably will be doing the Yankees games live. So if you are on the road or something and you have the Speaker Studio app, or all you need to do is just download the app, it's free. And you could just search me up. It's called Yankees Play-by-Play, and you could press on it, and you could hear me call play-by-play if you're on the road, or if you're just away, or if the game's not on TV, and you don't have any sort of radio.com or anything app like that where you can't listen to it on the radio. Then you could just, or there's no live stream on your phone, you could just listen to it through there. A free app, everything like that. You could listen through it through there. If you don't get the game, or if you're on the road, or whatever the case may be, I'll be calling it, things like that. And obviously, I have Around My Diamond podcast starting this Sunday, so that should be fun. But anyway, that's what I got for the podcast today. Hopefully, you all enjoyed it. I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.